you come to the new theater, you get treated really well. Cushy seats, climate control, and a menu that's come a long way since the old days of dinner theater.
It is a little different than the experience you'd expect when you head off to the Heart of America Shakespeare Festival, where conditions are, shall we say, more variable.
This year, the chosen play is King Lear, and it's underway in Southmoreland Park through July 5th.
John Rinsenhouse is the actor chosen to wear those heavy robes and carry all that inner rage. We got a chance to speak with this veteran of many such productions on the stone wall at Park's Edge.
Away! By Jupiter!
This will be my 6th time to be in the play, but this will be my first time to be playing the titular character, King Lear. So back in February, I started growing my beard and not cutting my hair and letting it all go wild. And this is what we get. And I tell people, you should come to the park this summer. We're doing King Lear. And they said, you look like King Lear. And I'm like, well, okay, halfway there.
I take Cordelia by the hand, Duchess of Burgundy.
Nothing. I am sworn. I am firm.
Sydney Garrett, the executive artistic director of the festival, has pulled together a pretty consistent company that she uses, and this year is no different. Mark Robbins is in the play, Matt Rapport, Cinnamon Schultz, Kim Martin Cotton, who I got to play with. We were Mr. and Mrs. Macbeth together, and we were Antony and Cleopatra together maybe 3 years ago. She is now my daughter. That is how I have aged. She used to be my girlfriend, now she's my daughter. Her husband, Jacques Roy, who played a very memorable Puck in Midsummer Night's Dream a couple years ago, he's in this. We're a group that has really gotten to bond over the various summers out here. Rain and heat and humidity will tend to make you bond with those you are around at that time.
If I gave them all
When we did it 15 years ago, it was much more civilized. We were wearing tuxedos in the first scene, so it was the crumbling of the civilized society. Here, I think it's more the full realization of a more savage society that when allowed to eat each other up, we eat each other up.
Half his revenue, my son, Edgar.
Sydney Garrett loves Game of Thrones, and so this is sort of in a Middle Ages. It's a barbaric play, so you know, it's a good choice.
You slave, you cur!
I am none of these, my lord. I beseech your pardon.
Do you bandy looks with me, you rascal?
Not be struck.
King Lear wasn't done much throughout the years because of the nihilistic worldview that it offers. At the end of World War II, it started being done a lot more because we had all seen the horrors of war. Oftentimes people say, well, King Lear is the Shakespeare play for our age, which doesn't say much about our age.
So it follows that I am rough, lecherous.
There's a classic sequence where he goes out into the storm. He's sort of driven mad and goes out onto the heath in the middle of a storm, and he gets to say the famous, blow winds and crack your cheeks, rage blow, and that's fun to say, and that's fun to fully embody, and I now understand why the character does it, because there's something liberating. You just go, ah, bring it on, I can take it. That's a really fun part to do.
Spread rain! The rain, wind, thunder, fire.
I love it out here. I love it because in the open air, it's difficult when the play starts at 8 o'clock because it's not dark yet. And you can see the people very clearly. You can see them eating their fried chicken and drinking their wine, and it makes you want to be on that side of the fence with them. It makes me actually very nervous to see the audience in broad daylight. So for the first scene is usually a little nerve-wracking. I won't lie about that. But once you get going, you get into the flow of the play and everything, and the audience sort of drifts away. And then once it gets dark, it becomes magical.
You've lost me in your liking.
Better thou hadst not been born than not to have pleased me.
And yeah, and you do have to get yourself mentally prepared to just, okay, I'm gonna be a sweaty mess. There are flies may fly into my mouth while I'm talking. That happens regularly. You choke on these flies, you know. And then every night, though, is the great thing, why I love being out here. Every performance, when you get to the end and it's cooled off a bit and the pretty lights are shining and you get to the end of the play, it's a glorious thing, and it's worth it. It's worth it, definitely.
Do not make me mad.